Hello everyone, I am Dieter Kuipers from VITO, the Flemish Institute for Technological Research in Belgium, and we are part of the UrBIOfuture consortium. I will provide some more context to the results which will be shown next. What will I be talking about? My presentation is in four. The first part is about the bioterminology. Second, I will explain why we are talking about bio-based economy, bioeconomy, and so on. And I will also show some frequently cited employment figures. And then last but not least, I will explain what the Bio-Based Industries Consortium joint undertaking is. The Bio-Based Industries Consortium joint undertaking is actually financing this project. But of course, first of all, what are we talking about? There is some kind of Babylonian confusion in this bioterminology. We were talking about bioeconomy, bio-based economy, biotechnology, and all these different terminologies. And that's because, of course, a definition can soon become political. It has financial implications and so on. And especially in this sector, it's difficult as it's an emerging sector, and it's also cut across many different sectors. There are some traditional sectors which are including bio-based technologies, bio-based feedstocks, and so on, and then it becomes difficult. But in general, I would say, when we talk about bio-based, it is actually as opposed to fossil-based. We are replacing fossil resources by biomass. But of course, let's start with the bigger picture, bioeconomy. Bioeconomy is composed of biomass production. And second, I will show it next, is the biomass use. Biomass production is typically the traditional sectors of agriculture, forestry, and so on, and of course parts of the industry which is producing biomass through industrial processes. And of course there are a lot of waste products, so we have biomass as a residual stream that can be used. Then we have biomass use, and biomass use, the biggest part for biomass use is actually the food sector, which is food and feed. A lot of production in agriculture is actually going to food and feed. But of course, there are some other subsectors like where they process bio-based materials and products. This can be traditional sectors like the wood sector, where they've always been using bio-based materials. But of course, more and more companies in the chemical sector are also using biomass as feedstocks. So there are hybrid sectors here. And then we have bio-based energy, the typical bioenergy sector, where they are replacing fossil energy by biomass. And of course, in the industrial and environmental technology, there are a lot of processes which are based on biological processes. And what is now usually considered as the bio-based economy, and I'm using this figure from a document from the Flemish government. All the resources are that I use are in the last slide of this presentation, so you can always look this up. This is what is generally seen as the bio-based economy. So we actually look at where biomass is being used, and we exclude biomass used for food and feed. But of course, it's not always that clearly defined, and there are many overlaps and interactions. Of course, there are a lot of waste streams in the food and feed sector that can be used as a feedstock for bio-based materials, chemicals, and so on. What is the focus of, for example, the Bio-Based Industries Consortium is, of course, this industrial, this bio-based focus. It's looking at how can we use feedstock for chemicals and materials. Of course, why are we looking at this? There is an increased policy support, mainly because we should get rid of our fossil resource dependency for a lot of reasons that that are in this list. I'm not going to read them all out loud. And second, there are a lot of opportunities. Of course, if we are going to use more feedstock, it will provide some opportunities for regional and rural development. We will be able to produce a lot of new chemicals through biorefineries, and of course there's a lot of opportunity to use wastes and byproducts. As said, there are many sustainability opportunities, but this doesn't mean by definition that it will be sustainable. It's not just by changing a feedstock that we will get other problems solved. We will not just solve the sink problem. We will not make production more sustainable. Look at the 15 years of biofuels policy. There have been some problems with the production of these feedstocks. And of course, when we look at the sink problem, if we produce exactly the same materials, if we use exactly the same materials, we will end up with the same plastic soup. So we just don't have to change only the feedstocks or technologies, but we also have to change society as a whole. And a bio-based economy is only sustainable if it is part of a circular economy. And now towards the socioeconomic impact of this sector, let's look at employment. Okay. If we look at the EU bioeconomy in 2015, so that's the broader picture, it includes agriculture and so on, about 18 million people were employed in the bioeconomy. And of course, half of it was in agriculture and 25% in food, beverages and tobacco. If we now would like to look at the bio-based economy, it's a bit more difficult, as said before. It's an emerging sector, it's a hybrid sector. It's very difficult to pinpoint exactly how many people are working there, but I think a good proxy would be the industrial biotechnology, as it is a driving sector behind bio-based products. And in 2016, UrBIO, they did a study, and they calculated that in 2013, about 94,000 full-time equivalents were working directly in the industrial biotechnology. Of course, this industrial biotechnology creates employment effects upstream. Everyone who has to produce chemicals, feedstocks, and so on for this biotechnology. It, of course, creates employment downstream, everyone using their products. And of course, there is also an indirect effect. Altogether, this amounts to 500,000 people employed in the industrial biotechnology in Europe. And through the calculation of two scenarios, they calculated that by 2030, this will double or triple. Of course, important to say also is that there is an important leverage effect of this employment in the direct industrial biotech, is that if we look at it, if we add one full-time equivalent in this direct sector, it will add 4 full-time equivalents in the value chain. Last but not least, the Bio-Based Industries Consortium joint undertaking. This joint undertaking is financing this project, and it's actually a public-private partnership between the European Union, the Commission, and the Bio-Based Industries Consortium. They gathered different funds, they put them together to go for a stronger European bio-based industrial sector. They mainly focus on the feedstock, which should be sustainably produced. They would like to increase the productivity and look for new supply chains. Another important focus is the biorefineries, where a lot of new products can be made. So there's a lot of R&D money going into that, and they will set up demonstrators. And of course, they will have to work on markets, products, and policies. So to develop a market and to optimize policy frameworks. And of course, part of this last focus is our project, where we look into employment opportunities and so on. Okay, my last slides. These are the references that I used for this presentation, and then I think that's my presentation, and I hope the next presentation will be interesting, where the results will be shown. Okay, goodbye.